The Regulating Act of 1773. This act was passed by the British Parliament in June 1773. It was the first act that recognized the political and administrative functions of the East India Company in India. The act defined its powers and authority over Indian possessions. The Regulating Act of 1773 laid the foundation of a central administration in India. It brought the East India Company under the British Parliament's control, leading to major changes in India's administrative and judicial system. The main reasons for the enactment of this act were: Robert Clive's dual form of government in Bengal had brought in many institutional changes and was complicated. It made life difficult for the people of Bengal. A terrible famine in Bengal added to the plight of the people, and poor response of authorities resulted in more than one-third of the population perishing. A huge financial crisis forced the company to borrow 1 million sterling pound from the British government in 1772, attracting Britain's attention to the functioning of the company. The company was supposed to be a trading firm, but gradually it started acting like a governing body. This did not go well with Britain, and it decided to bring the company's possessions under the control of the crown. The three main presidencies in India, Bengal, Madras, and Bombay, had no common control or administration, and it became necessary to establish uniformity. Lord North, the British Prime Minister, took these factors into account and presented a bill in the British Parliament in May 1773, which was passed as the Regulating Act 1773. The main objectives of the Act were to control and regulate the affairs of the company, to recognize administrative and political functions of the company, to sort out the chaos caused by the system of dual government, and to enforce anti-corruption practices in the company. Before we proceed ahead, let us understand what is dual government. Dual government in Bengal was established following the Battle of Buxar in 1764. The company became the leading power in Bengal. While it wanted to maximize its economic benefits, it did not want to take responsibility for governance in Bengal. Thus, Robert Clive introduced the system of dual government in Bengal in 1765. Under this system, the entire governance, that is administration of Bengal, was divided into two parts, Diwani and Nizamat. Diwani, also known as revenue collection rights, came under the jurisdiction of the British East India Company. Nizamat, also known as the territorial or jurisdiction, were acquired from the Subedar of Bengal and given to the Nizam. They were responsible for the administrative functions of the company and the maintenance of law and order in the territory. Thus, all the revenue powers were under the company's direct control, while the Nizam, who maintained peace and order, depended on the company for funds and forces. Warren Hastings did away with the system in 1772. Important provisions of this Regulating Act of 1773 was: the Act designated the Governor of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal. It also made the governors from the other two presidencies, Bombay and Madras, subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. It created an executive council with 4 members to help the Governor General take decisions. The Act provided for the establishment of the Supreme Court in Calcutta and 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. The Supreme Court, established in 1774, had jurisdiction over all 3 presidencies, Bengal, Madras and Bombay. The company's servants came under its ambit as well. The British government strengthened its control by requiring the company's governing body, the Court of Directors, to report on the company's civil, military, and revenue affairs in India. The Act prohibited servants of the company from participating in private trade or accepting bribes or presents from the native population. The Regulating Act 1773 tried to bring about important changes in administrative and judicial system. But since it had many lacunae, shortcomings, the Amending Act of 1781 was introduced to address and rectify them. The Regulating Act 1773 was the first step towards centralizing the British administration in the country. It also brought about significant and dynamic changes in the organizational structure of the judiciary, which was the basis of the judicial structure in independent India. It also tried to bring in some accountability by making the Governor General answerable to the Court of Directors. However, the anomaly was that it was not the Governor General but his Executive Council that made the most of the decisions. The ultimate powers of the administration were vested with the Governor and his Council, leading to widespread corruption, abuse of power, and weakening of the administration at the grassroots levels. There were also confusion about the powers of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis powers of the Governor and his Council. Most significantly, the Act failed to address the suffering and hardships of the native population.